Welcome to Transplants, a podcast featuring conversations with women thriving in new roots abroad. I'm your host, Laura Perucci, a Brazilian journalist calling NYC home for over a decade. Each episode, we unpack the transitions, culture shocks, setbacks, and joys of starting a new life in another country, so you can learn from their insights and make your own bold move. Because I truly believe real stories are the strongest way to spark real growth. Hello! On today's episode, I talk with Ambika Mathur, but you can call her Amby. And Amby is an Indian American that met a guy unexpectedly in Italy. And today she lives in Naples, in Italy, with her Italian husband. And she told us everything about what led her to her encounter with him, the decision to move to another country to pursue this relationship, and the struggles and challenges that came with this decision. You can expect a lot of vulnerability from Amby and some not so obvious details, like the fact that she was inspired by Emily in Paris and all the coincidences involving her love story. I mean, think about meeting a guy who matches the soulmate description she once wrote in her journal, word for word. Oh, and also a quick note. Amby was my first ever guest, my first ever recording for this episode. When I turned on the camera, when I turned on everything, we already had said hi, welcome, and I forgot to record that for the podcast. But it was my first one, so I hope you forgive me. And without further ado, here's Amby's transplant story. So, I want to start from the beginning. It was summer 2022. You're living in Los Angeles, California, and you had just moved back with your parents, right? After breaking up with your long-term boyfriend.
Yeah.
And everything started to change while you're watching Emily in Paris. Is that true? Like, can you tell me more about the context of your life at that time, how you're feeling, and why you were feeling that way?
I think 2022 was one of the most tumultuous years, and it had, for me at least, and it had so many highs and lows. I had broken up with my long-term partner of 5 years.
Wow.
That spring, and it was honestly the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. It was really hard, and I'm gonna get emotional talking about this, but I can't because I don't have waterproof mascara. But for me, this was a person who still is very special, but they checked all the boxes, and there was nothing wrong that happened. It would have been easier if one of us had cheated on the other. It would have been easier if there was something that I was mad about. But I just had finally accepted that he wasn't my soulmate. And so I had this point where either I continue my life, which is perfectly pleasant. You know, we had a business at the time too, so I have
I saw something about that, but I was not sure. Yeah.
Well, I have a business partner, a best friend, my sister's making mad at me if I say that. Sorry, Alicia. But I have a business partner, a best friend, very reliable, great guy. I'm happy. I'm living by my family. Everything's smooth. But there was just something missing, and I felt like I could see the rest of my life before my eyes, and I wasn't stoked about it.
Wow.
To go for plan B, which was throw it all out the window and see what happens. And it felt kind of like jumping off a cliff, but it was the best decision.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Yeah, that you mentioned something about like, oh, it'd be easier if we had cheated on each other or something like that. Because yeah, and people sometimes don't understand, right? Because, oh, but he's so good. Yeah, but if it doesn't feel right.
There's something missing.
Well, you're clearly right.
Yeah.
But you didn't know.
You're clearly right. I literally said, I'm not going to date anyone seriously And the next person I seriously date is going to be my husband. And
Wow. Be
uh,
careful with the words that you say, right?
yeah. Now I'm married and living in Italy. So it all worked
Yes.
out. But it was very, very scary. I definitely was afraid after we broke up. I'm back at my childhood bedroom in my parents' house thinking, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life?
Yeah. So you guys were living together?
We were. Luckily, I think one thing that gave me space to decide if we should be together or not was that February we had actually gotten rid of our apartment. So
Oh,
I
okay.
moved in with him right after college. We were dating in college. I just felt like I was 40 years old. I was in my young 20s and I thought, shouldn't I be doing something else? Shouldn't there be like something more to this?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we got rid of our apartment in February and we decided to be digital nomads and just travel around the world. And it was fun. And when we came back to California, I finally had space to think, is this really the right decision? I think when you're living with someone and you're in it, it can be hard to even give yourself space to think about if it's the right
Mm-hmm.
thing or not. But then I had the option. I was like, okay, we're not locked into a contract, a living contract now, and I can decide if it makes sense to continue this relationship or not.
So this was the context, and you're living with your parents. And is that Emily in Paris thing true? That's how you had the idea of like, okay, let me go to Europe and figure something out?
So basically, I have a very international family. We have family all over the world, and I've grown up traveling my whole life. But I was loving Emily in Paris. I definitely was watching it, binge watching it in that period. There was a lot of tumultuous things that happened even before this point, starting from
Okay.
2020. But in 2022, at this point, I was no longer working full time at a company. I'd already established myself as a model and actress in
Mm-hmm.
America. And I was shooting a 5-day commercial in San Diego at the time, but there was a lot of downtime. And I was sipping an oat milk latte in the talent hangout room when you're not actively filming. And I was just thinking, now what? And so I brought up my laptop and just for shits and giggles, I Googled flights to Paris. And sure enough, I found a good flight. So I thought, okay, I just booked it.
Oh, so you actually went to Paris first.
I went to Paris first. I had a whole adventure before I even made it to Italy.
Oh, okay, good for you. Was
Yeah,
your first time in Paris or no?
it was. It was my first time in Paris.
Amazing. Clearly, you had like a lot of places to visit during your this European adventure. You started in Paris, and then you went to Italy. You went to Milan first.
Actually,
Uh,
this is something I haven't talked about much on social media,
okay,
but
love that.
when I was on my way to Paris, I actually befriended a music producer on the plane. We ended up going on tour. I was doing country bopping around. So I was Paris, then Paris to London, back to Paris. I believe then I went to Milan. Then I scooted over to Switzerland, back to
Oh,
Milan,
wow.
Amsterdam.
Was this guy like a little love adventure or just like your friend?
It started off as a friend, and then it was a little like summer flirty fling for a couple weeks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. So, since we're talking about that, I wanted to ask you this question, like, because you ended this relationship like 5 years, you're living with this person. How do you put yourself out there after ending a long-term relationship? Were you because you just told me like the next person that I meet, that I date, I want to marry this person, but before that person, were you like, open to like, okay, I'm single and mingle. That's how you
Oh
say it, right?
yeah, I was
You're
so
like
ready
that?
to just have.
You're ready.
I was like, I am
Okay.
a free. Well, at first, I needed a moment to just brood and be sad. And then after, let's call it the mourning period, then I was like, all right, in my mid 20s, let's have fun.
You only live once, right?
Exactly. So
Okay.
it was exciting and it was fun getting to meet a lot of people. And I really wasn't emotionally available or in the space looking for love. I just wanted to have a good time.
You went to Milan after your tour with this guy. I read something about you staying in stranger's apartment and you were cat sitting. Was this true? Trusted house sitters by any
It
chance?
is.
Oh yeah.
You know it. I swear by it.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. I was like, it has to be amazing. So we already talked about the places that you've been.
Before I even booked my trip for Europe, I was laying depressed on my childhood bed in my parents' room and I pulled out the Trusted House Sitters app and I found this one stay in Seattle. Perfect. I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm going to brood in hipster coffee shops and just generally be sad.
I love that.
So
Like drama.
exactly. I just wanted to let myself be sad. And I thought, what better place to be sad and moody than the Pacific Northwest? So I let myself be sad and moody for a few days. I went on really nice walks. I was babysitting these adorable girls named Pearl and Ruby, two little fluffy white things. Then after a few days, I thought, okay, I'm kind of lonely. So I downloaded Hinge. And sure enough, I matched with this guy, an Italian guy. And so we had a nice dinner. It was great. And then months later, this guy messages me. And that was after I had booked my trip for Europe. I told him, I'm doing well. I'm actually going on a solo trip to Europe. Seeing that you're from Italy, do you happen to know anyone from Milan or Paris? And he said, actually, yes, I do. This is one of my good friends from college. So he gave me his contact information. Then when I was in Milan, I continued to text a friend for Italy advice. And of course, this guy, being from southern Italy, they have a little beef with northern Italy. So he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Milan, Veni al Sud, they come to the south. We're way better. We're more fun. And I'm having a birthday party. We're going to the Amalfi Coast. We're going to Naples. Come join us. So naturally, I was skeptical. I was thinking, why are you inviting me to your birthday party? Because you've never met me before. People from Naples are so friendly. And granted, it probably helped that I was, a pretty girl from California. And there's this group of Italian guys. And he's like, why not invite you? Just come. One day before I made the decision to come down, we had a little FaceTime vibe check. And I liked his vibe. So
Okay.
to come down and join them.
Okay. Okay, because I was gonna ask you actually, like, if you're not like afraid, how did you feel like comfortable on going on this birthday party of this guy that you've never met before? But what I'm hearing is that you were talking to him before. He was like a friend of a friend. You have some references, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
it's good to like protect yourself, right? When
Well,
you are a
actually,
girl in another country
part of
by
me
yourself.
wondered, like, is this all an elaborate human trafficking scheme? But then I thought, no, this is way too detailed and convoluted. And I feel like I'm generally a good reader of people, and so I liked the vibe.
I
And
think you are
thank you.
so far. Yeah.
Cool. But then also another reason that I accepted the invitation was that there was another girl invited. So I don't think I would have gone if it was just this group of guys, but it helped that there was one more girl.
Yeah, girls that are listening, just take your notes. We know that is at this birthday party that you met your now husband, Marco, right?
Yeah.
How was your first encounter with him? Because he knew that you will be there.
I found this out months later that he was pulling the strings behind the scene like a little puppeteer. And I was still a little nervous about meeting this friend of a friend who I was an absolute stranger to me. But when he picked me up at the train station at Garibaldi, he kind of looked like Jesus. And so oh, like, Jesus isn't gonna murder me.
I love that.
He's like this like long hair and sandals and just such a nice, warm personality. So it's like, okay, I'm in good hands. So the first day, I was actually sleeping in a hostel by myself in Napoli. And then I went and got an aperitivo with my friend and a friend of his, and we just went around the Neapolitan seaside. And I heard the name Marco that night about how something along the line, because they were also speaking Italian to each other, and I didn't speak Italian at that point, but I had gathered that there was this guy Marco who wanted to meet up with us, but instead he was on a boat somewhere. Anyway, the next day I was now invited to stay at the father's home of the birthday boy. So I am just hanging out with birthday boy. We're making pasta in the father's home. Then I hear a voice and I look up and I just see this god of a man standing in front of me. He's backlit and it's hot outside. And he was back by the door, but it's slightly glistening from the outside. And he has curly brown hair. And so the light formed kind of a halo around him. And it was just a moment of, oh. And my type exactly. Like tan, piercing blue eyes. I had honestly never met a guy who looked just like Marco, but in my journal months before I even met Marco, I had written the characteristics of what my dream partner would be like. Wow. And I wrote a physical description of Marco before I even knew he existed.
Wow.
And
talk about manifestation.
Yeah, so I saw my jaw hit the floor. And normally I'm really cool and charming with guys, but all my charm just went out the window. I don't know what happened. I felt like I just lost my ability to speak like a rational human being. And I just looked at him and I just said, wow, you look really hot. Do you want water? And I tried to save it. It was like a Freudian slip. So I offered him some water. And then he just goes, ciao, piacere, sono Marco. And we go on the phone and just move to the next room. And I just thought,
what is his perspective on how things
so
happened?
What actually happened was that he knew about me before that because the birthday boy had told him, hey, I'm talking to this girl from California and I'm kind of considering inviting her to the party. And he goes, let me look at her Instagram. Then he sees my Instagram, which back then was just modeling stuff. He is pushing birthday boy to invite me to the party. And then he actually had invited himself to lunch that day. And so he was pretending like it was all just happened. But he knew exactly what he was doing.
Wow.
Wanted to make sure that he met me before I met the rest of the guys because there was 10 Italian men on this trip.
He's competitive.
Yeah.
So it just had like some spark, like talk about spark, right? And I know that you guys like click and you talked a lot and he invited you to go boating with him the next day. And I actually saw a video on your Instagram with that trending audio like dumb ways to die.
That was our first date. Yes.
Because you went on a boat with this guy that you just met.
I didn't even know it was a date. And I also didn't know it was Bridget Bardot's boat.
Wow.
That first day we meet, I ended up going kayaking. I was just really overheated because Napoli in July, like end of July, it's an inferno. So I went kayaking and then I come back. I just decide, okay, I'm going to shower and I just start putting on makeup because I assume at some point I'm going back outside. And then the doorbell rings. And I think that's strange, but I open the door. Guess who's there?
Marco.
Go. My husband. And so I'm thinking, oh, what a like interesting coincidence. The cute guy from before is just here. So what actually happened was birthday boy had texted Marco saying, okay, she's alone in the apartment. Go.
Jesus, these guys, they work, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I had no idea. And so I just invited him to sit on the couch and he was very polite. We sat on opposite ends of the couch and he didn't speak good English. I didn't speak good Italian. We end up going to this party with a group of Neapolitans. And then he just says, hey, tomorrow I'm going to check out a boat. Do you want to come? And so that was how he asked me on our first date. But it was so vague to me that I just thought maybe he's being friendly. I also didn't know. I mean, a guy who looks like this probably has to have at least 2 girlfriends or a wife or something.
Mm-hmm. And then you went on this boat with him, and
so we went on this little vintage Riva, which is Bridget Bardot's old Riva that he was helping manage for a friend of a friend. He's trying to impress me by taking me in this out on this boat, but I didn't know that. I thought he genuinely had to do some maintenance on it. And sure enough, the boat needed maintenance because it started smoking while we were on it. So then
oh my God,
he turns it around. We go back into the harbor and then we hop on another boat. And I'm just along for the ride. I have no idea what's happening. And I also don't understand why he has access to so many boats. Turns out he has a boat company, but he didn't tell me that. So we hop on another boat, we go outside, and we're swimming.
am I like with the mafia right now?
I was like, I have no idea what's happening. But so he takes me to this beautiful place and he stops the boat and then we go swimming. And then at one point we're laying there next to each other on the boat and I'm thinking, oh, this guy's such a player. But then I thought about it and I said, you know what? I can be a player too. So then we just start making out. And then after a couple hours of swimming and making out on this boat, he goes, oh, we have a tour scheduled, but I want you to see the sunset. So anyway, he turns the boat around. We go to the harbor and apparently he has a boat tour company. Who knew? I'm thinking we're going to get off the boat and just watch the sunset from the harbor. But instead, before I know it, this family starts coming onto the boat. Another awkward couple starts coming onto the boat. And I just jump into action and I pretend I work for him. I say, hi, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Can I get you guys anything to drink or eat? And so that was our first date. And then at that point, I knew he liked me and I liked him. And so then we were kind of on our date with this family of 4 and a couple and kind of working. The next night, he told me he loved me.
Oh, wow. You were extending your trip, and no surprise, you extended your stay in Italy because of this guy, and you spent incredible days with him. So my question is, what were your thoughts about that adventure so far? Because you were like, I want to have fun. You were with that mindset when you went to Europe. Mm-hmm. But was there a moment that you realized, this could be something special. This could be something serious. This could be my life. Or just following the moment. Would you say that it felt impulsive or intuitive? Because I also read that you texted your mom or your friend about I just met my husband 3 days that you had met him, but you were being serious about that. What are you thinking at that moment?
There were some things leading up to this that I actually hadn't mentioned. So about a week before I met Marco, when I was by myself in the Tuscan countryside, I had this horrible, horrible dream one night that my sister had died. And it was so vivid and unlike any nightmare I'd ever experienced. And I woke up bawling, sweating, and I checked my phone and I have a text from my dad saying, "Hi, honey, please call me. I have some sad news." And I am thinking, oh my God, please don't let it be my sister. I call my dad, and sure enough, it was my grandfather. So
Oh.
obviously, I was heartbroken that my grandfather died, but I was so relieved that it wasn't my sister. I think in his last message to me, he was always telling me that he wanted my sister and I to really work on our bond and really not take each other for granted. So I think that was his last message to me. Anyway,
Oh.
so I then went on a walk in this olive grove to clear my head, and I was also so lonely at that point. And then something weird happened, and I just had a vision of me with an Italian husband and kids, and I have a tomato plant, and I'm making like a salad. Then I snapped out of it, and I just thought, what the heck was that? Where did that come from? But then I shrugged it off and said, I'm probably just dehydrated. And
I was gonna say that.
I was staying at a hostel at the time, but the hostel was really special because it was also an old monastery. But what I didn't know was that in the daytime, they close the hostel to the people who are staying there, and it turns into an event space. So I get back to where I was expecting just to go to my stuff and freshen up. Nope. It is a full-on wedding happening. So I have to go through this group of gorgeous Italian men in their dark blue suits, and I'm in my ugly spandex sweaty shorts, and I'm like, oh, scusa. But then when I grabbed the last remaining stragglers at the hostel, and then we went to go get a wine tasting. And as we're walking back past this group, I look at these guys, I look at one of the girls, and I say, damn, I need to find myself an Italian husband. A joke. I didn't actually mean it. But then a week later, I met Marco. And when we were in the Amalfi Coast, it felt more physical attraction. It felt like a hot summer fling. But
Mm-hmm.
then after that ended, I was supposed to go to Spain, and he said, I don't care what you're doing, cancel it and come and stay with me and my family home in Naples, like for as long as you can, as long as you want. I just knew I had to take him up on the offer. I couldn't leave him. So I stayed with him for a few days, and during that time, that was when it transitioned from just a summer fling to something serious. There were a lot of synchronicities happening.
Yeah, I can see.
And I think the strangest one for me was that we were outside on the terrace one night. We had just made pesto from scratch. It felt like something out of a movie. It didn't feel real. And we're talking about our lives, and he mentions that he's already been to California before. Long story short, he had already met my childhood best friend's family, and had been in her uncle's house, had driven their car over a
That's so
decade
crazy.
before he and I met. Yeah. And this is like I'm still best friends with her to this day, and this is a girl who I've known since I was 4 years old. So that was really strange.
Wow. So many coincidences,
There was a
right?
lot of
And
coincidences, yeah.
wow.
And so then I just had a gut feeling. There were other things in addition to that, but I just felt like we were meant to be together. There was one moment we were cuddling, and I asked, do you believe in soulmates? So he's like, I think I do now. And I had told my sister, I was like, hey, I think I might have met my husband. And then she freaks out, and like being the protective sister that she is.
She older than you?
She is older than me. She ends up going like private investigator on this guy. And so the people that she's with in London then have a connection and somehow know Marco, and they're like, oh yeah,
Wow.
family.
Like all of the odds were like in favor, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you guys embark on this relationship because like I know that Marco then right after you left, he went to California, met your
That was
family.
when I knew it was real. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause when I left, I still didn't know if it was real or if he was just kind of a love bombing Italian man.
Uh-huh. And
But
then when he bought the ticket, you were like, okay, this guy is like serious about me.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Because like Italy, it's so far away from California. So you guys played the long distance relationship for a few months, right? Until like the end of the year, you bought a one-way ticket
I'm
to
really, how do
Napoli.
you know all of this?
I did my research, girl.
Dang.
But yeah, according to my research,
Yeah.
you left Italy, and then right after he went to California, and you guys we do like a lot of video calls, and at the end of
Yeah.
the year, you decided to buy this one-way ticket to Napoli. So I wanted to know more about that move and what led you to do that decision. How, I mean, at this point, I know that you have a good intuition and things were just working, but was that something that made you feel confident about taking that step? Because we all know at this point that after like he proposed, you got married, you are now happily living in Italy.
Uh-huh.
But my point is that marriage is like a huge step, is a serious decision. If you are living in the United States, it will be. But marrying someone, moving to another country, starting a new life, it's huge. So, how did you cope? And what did your friends and family tell you when you said, like, I'm going to Napoli and I don't have a date to come back?
I think I was overconfident. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a piece of cake. I've grown up traveling. I speak Spanish, so I'll pick up Italian easily, and I'm great with people, so I'll make friends easily. No problem. Oh, it was so hard. It was traumatic. My first year here was incredibly challenging, but my family and friends were amazing. Of course, they were like, some of them were a little skeptical, like my sister and some of my best friends, like, okay, like be careful, like make sure you're not just getting love bombed. I understand, I appreciate the protectiveness. I would be the same way, but I have a good feeling about this, so I'm just gonna follow it. There was no other option. It was just something I had to do, because if I didn't do it, then it would mean that we wouldn't be dating, our relationship would just end, because we weren't just going to be doing long distance forever. Eventually someone
Yeah,
has to make a move,
exactly.
and it's really the only way to see if we were good together. And I didn't want to just live with a what if. That's my biggest fear. I don't want to be dying when I'm old and thinking, what if I did that? So I said, I gotta try it, and if it doesn't work out, California isn't going anywhere, so I can always come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, you have flexibility with your work, right? As a model, actress, and then
Yeah.
an influencer. So that also helps, I think, with the
Yeah,
decision,
it
right?
helped that I wasn't working full time in an office. I got laid off in COVID, and that was when I decided that I never wanted to work for a company again. I made it my mission to establish varying streams of income so that I was never just dependent on one company. It was still a big decision though for me leaving America, because I had put in a lot of work to get my agencies. And I have agencies in different states and cities. Yeah, that was something that I struggled with a lot when I first moved here, because I would get these job requests and I couldn't participate in them because I was on the other end of the world. But now little by little, I've been able to grow my career as an influencer, and I've been able to network and meet more people. So slowly I'm growing my career as a model and actress here in Italy.
You just mentioned that your first year was really, really hard. And I think this is an excellent topic related to my next question, because like life in Italy and in Europe in general is often like over romanticized. And of course, we know that lifestyle in America is different from the European lifestyle. I really do believe that living abroad is about like finding balance, right? There are trade-offs. I also saw some of your videos talking about like feeling lonely sometimes and missing home. And I guess like a lot of people that live abroad, they feel like that sometimes. So could you talk a little bit about that? What is true and what is false about the narrative around living in Italy in from your point of view? And what was the hardest part for you during that first year?
That's a good question. So to start off, I think living in Italy is very different from visiting, and that goes with anywhere.
Yeah.
When you are visiting, you have these, what is it, the rose-colored glasses where everything looks
Yes.
wonderful and amazing, and then when you actually move there, there's a lot you have to figure out. For me, some of the main challenges were I really missed having support because there was my boyfriend at the time, but I didn't really have friends, and I didn't really have family because there was my boyfriend's family, but they didn't really speak English, and I didn't speak Italian, and there was a really big cultural difference. I think they were also kind of defensive and protective of Marco because they were worried that I would come and then find it too hard and leave and break his heart. We've come a long way. But when I first got here, his mom was an angel always, but his dad was very protective of him and was, I don't think he was a fan of me. Now we're homies, but in the beginning, it was hard. I felt really ostracized and othered from the other people, like a lot of the other people in the community, because we're fortunate in that we are in an affluent area of Napoli. But with that, everyone is white and everyone comes from generations of Neapolitans. There are no other people of color in this community, let alone the social scene, let alone the parties. And so I would get lots of comments that were extremely hurtful to me. But then when I would try to explain it to my boyfriend, he didn't understand why it was hurtful to me. I just felt so lonely. um,
I can
anyway,
imagine
but
that
now it's
that
getting
that feels
better.
hard. Would you say that because that was kind of like the norms for them, like to make these comments about people of color? So
I think, for example, one time I went to this dinner and it was Marco's parents and a group of their friends, and it was in a nice restaurant. And I had put an effort to dress pretty. I put on a nice green dress, a little bit of makeup, and I show up to this dinner. And the first thing that one of their friends says to me was, "Why don't you have a dot on your forehead?"
wow.
For me, that was really triggering, especially because I had grown up in a very, like, again, Caucasian Christian area of Southern California. So kids to me were awful growing up, and adults too. People were not nice. And so I had grown up with being bullied my whole life. And so it was really hard to, like, when I was in college, I finally had grown my self-esteem, and so then I thought it was like done with that stage of life. And so then I'm like, oh man, this shit again.
Yeah, it's a trigger, right?
Now I know not to take bullshit from people. And I also don't think that he said it intentionally to be hurtful. I genuinely think he was just curious and confused,
Yeah.
but it was just such an ignorant question. And so then I politely asked him to repeat his question 2 more times to just see if he would like realize how silly he sounded like after repeating it, but he just didn't get it. And so then I explained, like, this question actually makes me feel othered, and it makes me feel like I don't belong here, and it's already like hard for me to be here right now. And no one else like said anything. Like, I was kind of hoping that my boyfriend's parents at the time would have said something, but like no one. So there was like several times, like I've had many experiences like that here, and it's tough.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally, totally. And I think it's so like unfair because I also experienced something like that, like comments about not being American, for example,
Yeah.
and it hurts so much because that's a part of you that you cannot change. Not that I want to
Yeah.
change, but listen, I can change my hair color. I can, don't know, I can put weight, I can lose weight, I can put makeup, but there are
Yeah.
a lot of things that you cannot change. And like where you're from, you cannot change that. It's part of who you are. And being judged by that, because of that, it's so hurtful, right? Because yeah, I'm listening to this audiobook, Born a Crime from Trevor Noah. And
Okay.
he talks a lot about that because his dad was white and his mom was black, and he was born like right after the apartheid. And he was talking a lot about that, and also like speaking English and his color. It's hard. I'm sorry that you went through that, but unfortunately for a lot of the immigrants, it's something is one of the trade-offs, right? That we have to face. And in your case, it's even like more complicated because you already dealt with that in America, and now you have to deal with that in another country. So yeah, that's tough.
It's hard too because like I'm when I go to India, I stand out because I dress differently, I act differently. So people look at me like I don't belong there. But then when I go to America, I don't belong there. Then when I go to Italy, I don't belong here. So it just leaves you feeling like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that from some Indians as well. That when they go back from Indian Americans, that when they go to India, they are
Yeah.
not seen as Indians. So yeah, that's tough. Send you a lot of hugs.
Thanks.
Um, let's talk about something really fun now:
Yeah.
baking.
Oh, I do love baking.
Yeah. So I know you bake a lot. And you are an apprentice. I didn't know that word until I read that. I had
Oh,
to check that out actually. I knew
that's
intern,
exciting.
but I was like, this is not intern. And you kind of work at this local bakery in Napoli. How lucky she is. Can you tell me how that happened and what baking means in your life? Because I think you are fascinating. Like you're a model and you bake and you're Indian, living in Italy. It's just incredible. So and
You're so
also like
sweet.
proves the point that we can wear different hats in life.
Yes.
So tell me more about baking and the how that changed your life because you really love
Yeah.
that.
I do really love baking. I actually was eating some sourdough that I baked from scratch
Ah,
last night.
amazing.
And I'm a creative person. I've always been very creative. And one of my favorite things that I do with my sister when I was little was bake. And she's 5.5 years older than me. And when our parents would like have, their a date or something, we would get out the Betty Crocker box cookie mix or something and bake together. And it was so fun. In Italy, my relationship with the baker happened kind of naturally. So, first, I was her customer, and every morning that bakery smells incredible
Oh my god.
because they're baking the cornetti, the pane. I would be on my walk or jog, trying to be fit, gotta keep this model. And then I would smell the delicious things, and I'm like, oh man. So one time I went in there to just ask, like, what is this smell? Because it smelled exceptionally good that morning. And she said it's probably le trecce, which is a braided brioche.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked around and I could just tell from looking, this is a place that doesn't accept credit card because it looks like it's from the 1920s. So I didn't even bother to ask if I could pay with card. I just said, okay, I'm going to go home and get money and come back. She goes, don't worry about it. Just grab what you want and then pay me tomorrow. But I had never experienced anything like that in California. And I mean, can you imagine in New York, you go to Starbucks and you're like, hey, Jim, can I pay you for my matcha latte
Oh
tomorrow?
no.
Get out
In
of here.
my hometown in Brazil, that happened a lot when I was a kid. But in New York,
It just felt, I was like, I don't want to take advantage of this nice woman. So I ran home. I got my money. I ran back. And she sees me like sweating with the money. And she's like, Madai, like this girl is ridiculous. And I think we established our friendship that way. That was when I moved from just being some random customer to someone she actually like appreciated and liked. So then maybe a few weeks later after that, I asked one day if I could observe her baking because I read this one book called Heat that I love. And
heat.
it's about
Okay.
a guy. It's real. It's a real story. And it is I believe it's a New York Times editor who was really interested in culinary arts, and he goes and works as a line cook and does prep at these top extremely intense Michelin restaurants in New York. And then from there, he goes to Italy and he learns from these Italian women how to make pasta by hand. He learns from a butcher in Tuscany how to
Wow.
cut meat. So for me, when I read that book, I just fell in love with that idea of learning from the locals how to make their food. So I asked, can I maybe observe you one day? And she says, "Sí, vieni domani." Like, yeah, come tomorrow. And then I just kept coming back every single day, like a dog, like a lost dog.
And would you
And
say that it's like how you like improve your baking skills?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I never even fathomed that I would be able to make flaky cornetti, like like the buttery flaky croissants, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I learned how to make brioche, I learned how to make baba, I learned how to make cornetti, leche. My favorite part is the relationship that I've built with Luciana because she became like a second mom for me here. When I would just be lonely in the apartment, I knew that I could just like leave the house and walk to the bakery, and there I would feel welcomed and safe, and I could just slow down, not think about work, not think about my future, and just focus on like putting one strip of dough over the other.
It's a therapy, right?
Yes, it's such a therapy.
You are learning in one of the best places in the world. So, you come from an Indian family, right? And I imagine that shaped a lot of your early experiences and how you viewed independence, relationships, career, and even the idea of like moving abroad. So, how did your cultural upbringing influence the way that you saw yourself growing up in the US and now they're living in Italy and navigating this new chapter of your life away from America and the Indian culture as well? How has that shaped your identity like even further? Has it changed? Has it bring new reflections around belonging or what quote unquote like home means to you?
I think it might have made me more confused.
Oh
Honestly.
my God. Poor girl.
Yeah. I'm still working on that.
Okay. But do you
Yeah,
think that you're coming from this like Indian background with your family? Do you think that kind of like helped your adventure in Italy, like feeling more like confident or brave or
Uh-uh.
no? No?
No. Yes and no. The yes is that I grew up going to India, and my threshold for chaos is a little bit higher than someone who has just stayed in Southern California their whole
Okay.
life. So I grew up well traveled with a very open mind, and that meant that I'm really open to trying new things and to learning new cultures, and I'm able to adapt easier,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just maybe more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And so for I think a lot of Americans when they come to Naples are just like, ah, chaos, abandoned ship. But for me, I was able to see past that. And I'm also I'm fortunate that I'm with a Neapolitan, so I have an upper hand there. But I'm able to see all the beauty that the city offers. That might not be as apparent uh, at an initial glance. On the flip side, it is probably harder moving here as a person of color than if I was just white. You know, I at least people say I have a nice tan.
Okay, that's something, right?
It's something.
You cannot have everything, right?
You can't have it all.
Yeah. What has your experience been like building friendships and community in Napoli? Because I just saw your story this week that you're celebrating with some friends, expats friends, and you're
Yeah.
actually saying to other people that live abroad, hey, keep doing it. It's gonna happen. Because we know that it's hard to make friends when you're an adult.
Yeah.
And then if you add to that equation like living abroad, it's even harder.
When I first moved here, making friends was harder than I thought. And we were just in a very Neapolitan social context. And I thought I would be able to just enter the social circles because in California, me and my friends and a lot of the girls are really like friendly and warm and we're open. And you go to a party and like a friend introduces you to their friend, you're gonna be friends. Like, I mean, we make best friends in the bathroom line outside a bar. That was my experience. So then I thought that I would be like, okay, I have this Italian boyfriend and he's gonna introduce me to his friends and it's gonna be easy. It was so not easy because what I didn't realize was that, yes, the Neapolitan women I was meeting with were friendly, but I just felt really surface level because they have their social circle that's already built, it's been established. And honestly, some of these social circles have been established generations ago. Like their
Mm-hmm.
grandparents or friends. They've known each other the whole childhood. I'm not going to like force myself into their social
Yeah.
scene. So yes, I can be invited to the parties or I can attend their events, but it felt challenging getting past that. And so I felt really lonely. But then little by little, I've started creating my own community of friends here. And I joke that we're like the United Nations. And that we're just kind of this hodgepodge community of expats, of just nice expat women. That's been really helpful. And funnily enough, social media has brought me my best friends here because a lot of people have come into my life by sending me messages on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't meet everyone I meet. Like, I don't meet
I
everyone that sends
know.
me messages because there's a lot of weirdos on the internet. I have met a handful of the people who have messaged me. And now I have a really nice community of friends. And also a lot of the creators. There's other creators like you and me, content creators,
Mm-hmm.
living in Italy. I was just in Rome hanging out with several of the girls, and it was so nice because we just have similar personalities and similar interests and similar income
And
streams and
similar pains.
similar pains, and we can just relate with each other on a lot of things, which
And
is really
and
nice.
definitely like having friends when you live abroad, it's so important because it makes things easier, right? Because Of course, friends are important. It doesn't matter like the context, but when you don't have your family, friends are your family. I know it sounds cliche,
Yeah.
but it's so true. So I'm happy for you that you're finding your
Yeah, like
people.
the other day I was having a really, really hard day, and if it had been a year ago, I probably just would have ended the night crying by myself in my apartment. But instead, I had a girlfriend to call and I said, "Hey, like, can you come over? Like, I really need you right now." And she just dropped everything and drove over, and it meant the world to me that, like, one, that she did that she came, but then two, that I even had someone I could call. Yeah.
So now looking at the United States from the outside, do you think your relationship with America has changed? And do you still like feel tied to it or no?
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is with the new government or how much of it is from me just living abroad. I don't agree with a lot of the things that are happening in America right now. I'm really grateful to be having my European visa, like more than ever at this moment. It's just concerning because I look at our country and I feel like we're going backwards in time.
And it
Um,
hurts, right? Because
yeah,
when I look
cries.
when I see like the news, for example, for me like in Brazil,
Yeah.
and something bad is happening, I wish I could just like close my eyes and like I don't care. But it's stronger than you. Even if you don't have the intention of going back, it's part of you, like we're talking before,
Yeah.
right?
Well, like my family and my friends are still there, and
Exactly.
I was planning on buying a house in California one day, but now I'm hearing talks that our government is considering, I don't know if it's just like talks, but they're talking about making dual citizenship illegal.
Oh yeah, I read something
I'm like,
about that.
what? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah,
Why?
I read. Oh my god, yeah, that's crazy.
That was the first time when I thought, honestly, I would choose having European citizenship
Yeah.
over American citizenship at this point. But I don't want to have to choose. I would
Of
like to have
course.
both.
Of course. It's part of your identity. You shouldn't have to
Yeah.
choose. So we're almost at the end of the interview. So far, because you're still like I'm sure you're gonna learn a lot of other things because like when you are living abroad, it's an adventure, right? Every year we have new challenges. But so far, what has this entire experience taught you about love, self love, trust, and the kind of life that you want to build?
I think love, I've learned that like true love really is like being there for each other in the highs and the lows and just sticking through it, being patient and consistent with the other person. Then self love, I've learned to be a lot more kind and patient with myself through this journey. I think my self confidence has skyrocketed because I've done so many things that I never thought I would have even tried to do or even had the option to do. Just was it 2 weeks ago? I was on TV in with Rai, which is Italy's national TV network. Just being there in the studio in Milan, getting my hair and makeup done, and then speaking in Italian with people. I That was something that I never would have dreamed was possible. So that was really exciting. Then you said love, self love. What was the next one?
Trust and the kind of
Trust.
life that you want to build.
I think that it's really important to just have faith in the universe. Recently, I've been saying when things happen that feel frustrating or hard, I try to challenge myself and say, like, okay, everything is happening for me. And so there's been many times along this journey when something's happened that might seem ugly or annoying or sad in the moment, but in the long run, it's been for like the better good. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just having trust in the process, and like even if you don't know exactly where you're going, uh, just following the universe's cues step by step.
And finally, what would you say to someone who is just starting a new life abroad, especially someone that has like the same experience that you had, like finding love in another country and starting a new life in another country under those circumstances? What would you say?
Go for it, because life's too short to have regrets and think about what ifs. And I would also say be prepared for a very tumultuous journey. Be prepared and expect highs and lows, and also know that you're not alone and you're not crazy if you're feeling all sorts of feelings.
Okay. Before we wrap it up, can you just share with people where they can find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on social, on Instagram and TikTok at Ambika Mathur. And I also have a blog called travelwithamby.com, and that's where I have longer form content, and I send out this fun little digital postcard about twice a month.
Okay, I will make sure to include those informations on the description of the podcast of the platform that you guys are listening to, or if it's YouTube, check the description. You guys have to check her Instagram. It's super fun. And Amby, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying yes to this interview from like another immigrant to another
Thank
immigrant.
you, Laura.
And for
Of
being
course.
vulnerable and for like sharing all the like highs and lows. Yes, I just wish you all the best on your journey
Thanks.
in
Yeah,
Italy.
same touch, no please, stranger. And I wish you the best on your podcast. This is exciting.
Thank
This is
you.
so cool.
Thank you, Amby. Make sure to give her a follow on Instagram and send her a message or leave a comment saying that you listen to this podcast. And we talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to send me a message on Instagram at Laura_Peruti, or you can also message the show's Instagram is transplants.pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. And if you are listening this on Spotify, make sure to follow us there as well. And if you feel like it, please give us a 5-star review, because this can help us a lot to spread the word about the show. I will link everything in the description, including Amby's information as well. And if you are a woman living abroad and you have an amazing story to share and you feel comfortable speaking in English, please reach out to me. Even if you don't speak English, reach out to me anyway, because I have other plans for people that have amazing stories and maybe don't feel comfortable speaking in English. So I want to hear your story. And other than that, I just want to say thank you for being here. Until next time. Bye.